Hello, welcome to the European Open briefing for Monday, November the 14th. I'm Rafi Boyajian, currency analyst at xm.com, and we're going to be looking at the latest developments in the currency markets today. So the main news this morning is pretty much the dollar is dominating the market moves, carrying on from what we saw on Friday. The dollar broke above 107 yen. And the main reason for this is of course, that we're seeing long-term US Treasury yields rising sharply on expectations that the incoming new president in the US will boost fiscal policy, which would lead to higher growth and inflation in the US, and then that would inevitably lead to higher interest rates. The dollar index reached an 11-month high. The dollar is having a strong downward effect on the euro. The euro is currently at a 10-month low. It's also affecting gold. The gold is down to 5-month low. On the other hand, the Mexican peso is off its all-time low. It hit on Friday. This comes after Trump appeared to soften his stance on immigration. And in other currencies, the Kiwi hit 4-week low following the earthquake that hit New Zealand over the weekend, plus of course on the stronger dollar as well. And we had quite a bit of data this morning. The main one is Japan's GDP data, which showed the economy grew by more than expected. So let's begin with the dollar yen. The dollar hit a 5-month high of 107.95 yen a short while ago, as US yields on long-term treasury notes continue to rise on expectations of a Trump fiscal stimulus. The dollar index hit an 11-month high, while the euro hit a 10-month low of 1.0741. The euro also has concerns that due to what we've seen with Brexit and the surprise victory of Donald Trump in the US elections, that we might see similar political backlash against mainstream parties in Europe. We've got French and German elections coming up next year, and we have an Italian referendum coming up in December. So there's fears that we might see similar backlash, revolt by voters in Europe. So that's weighing on the euro. Also supporting the dollar, on the other hand, we've got expectations of a Fed rate hike next month. We saw the Fed Vice Chair, Stanley Fischer, speaking on Friday. He said the case for removing accommodation gradually is quite strong. And we're going to see Fed Chair Janet Yellen herself speaking in Congress, where she's due to testify before a joint economic committee, and therefore markets will be keeping a close watch on what she says on Thursday. If we have a quick look at the gold and the Mexican peso, we can see here gold hit a 5-month low, $1,212.26 an ounce. That's because when we've got higher yields in the US, it makes safe havens much less appealing. The Mexican peso, on the other hand, is resisting further declines from Friday. And so this comes after Donald Trump said that he will only deport illegal migrants that have committed a crime, as opposed to deporting all illegal migrants in the US from Mexico. And he also suggested that the proposed wall along the Mexican border, part of it can be a fence. So markets viewed this as a slight softening of his stronger rhetoric that we saw during the presidential campaign. Let's move on now to the Japanese data. We can see here Japan's GDP grew by 0.5% quarter on quarter. On an annualized basis, it grew 2.2% versus expectations of a 0.9% increase, and that's sharply up from previous quarter's 0.7% increase. We also had an upward revision to industrial output, and overall the positive data is seen as reducing the odds of further monetary easing by the Bank of Japan. Bank of Japan's Governor Haruhiko Kuroda was speaking earlier today. He said that Japan's economy is sustaining momentum and should therefore be able to hit its 2% inflation target, although he maintained that risks are tilted to the downside. So, of course, he's keeping the options open for further easing. At the end, we saw that it's mostly being impacted by a stronger dollar. the positive data hasn't had much of an upward effect on the Japanese currency. We also had a lot of Chinese data out this morning. We had urban investment, industrial output, retail sales. All of them disappointed except for investment, which was slightly up from 8.2 to 8.3% in October versus expectations it would stay unchanged. Industrial output was slightly weaker. A bigger concern was retail sales, which was more sharply below expectations. Expectations were to stay unchanged at 10.7% year on year, but it came in at 10%. The yuan, on the other hand, hit a fresh 6-year low today, and this is of course due to the stronger dollar. The overall data didn't have too much of an impact in markets as once again the rising yields in the US and the stronger dollar are the main forces currently affecting emerging market currencies. If you look at the Aussie and the Kiwi, they're also being impacted negatively. The Aussie continues to fall despite the fact that the price of its main exports are doing rather well. They're only providing a very modest support to the Australian dollar. Australia is a big exporter of commodities such as iron ore, copper and coal, all of which are benefiting from the expectations that the US will increase money on infrastructure projects. The New Zealand dollar is also not doing too well. It hit a 4-week low 0.7071 and it had the additional pressure of the massive earthquake that we had over the weekend, which destroyed large parts of the roads and buildings in New Zealand. Let's have a quick look now at today's calendar. We already had the main data out this morning. Shortly we're going to have industrial production data out of the Eurozone. It's expected to come in at minus 1% month on month in September. But it's going to be a fairly quiet day for the US. We don't have any major data out of the US session today. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.